قصف جديد، قصف جديد يا شباب، قصف جديد مبنى هيئة الأركان خالص.
Man, that's some heavy stuff. You can almost feel the ground shaking from here. Reports say Israel also hit near the presidential palace, basically sending a loud message to Syria's new leadership. And get this, an ex-post from BRICS Info confirms the Defense Ministry strike, while another from African soil calls it one of the biggest airstrikes yet. But why go so hard? Let's talk about what sparked this. So, here's the deal. This all ties back to Suida, a city in southern Syria where the Druze community is the majority. Over the weekend, things got ugly. Clashes between Druze groups and Bedouin tribes left dozens dead. Syria's government sent in forces to calm things down, but Israel saw that as a threat to the Druze, a group they've promised to protect. Let's hear how CNN lays it out.
On Tuesday, Syrian government forces were sent to the Druze stronghold of Suida in the south of Syria after days of sectarian violence there between the Druze and Bedouin tribes. In response, Israel, which has vowed to protect the Druze community, began launching strikes on the Syrian forces advancing towards Suida.
Okay, that's the spark. Israel's saying, we're protecting the Druze and our border. Syria's like, we're just trying to stop the violence. Both sides have a case, but this is a tinderbox. And honestly, it's wild to think a local conflict could escalate to strikes on the capital. To get why this matters so much, we gotta understand the Druze. The Druze are a religious minority with deep roots in Syria, Lebanon, Israel, and Jordan. In Suida, they're the majority, but they're not united. Some back Syria's government, others, like Sheikh Hajiri's crew, want international protection. Israel's got ties to Druze communities in Israel and the occupied Golan Heights, so they're stepping in, saying it's about protection. But is it also about control? Here's Al Jazeera with more.
Well, the Druze communities are indigenous to this region. Their presence in Lebanon, in Syria, in present-day Israel, in Jordan predate the establishment of Israel. Now, in Israel itself, the majority of that community, who are now Israeli citizens, serve in the Israeli army. So there is a special relationship between the state and the Israeli Druze. In the occupied Syrian Golan, the Druze identify as Syrians. They do not recognize the legitimacy of Israeli occupation. Even those who have been more recently occupied in the additional territory of the Syrian Golan that Israel occupied since December of 2024 do not identify or affiliate with Israel. Having said that, there is concern within the Druze community in the occupied Syrian Golan and beyond about what is happening. There are fears about the future of Syria, the nature of the Syrian state, and how relations could be maintained, how Syria can be maintained as a united country that can be inclusive.
That's a lot to unpack. The Druze aren't a monolith. Some see Israel as a friend, others as an occupier. Israel's playing the protector card, but they're also flexing muscle in southern Syria. It's a risky move, and it's got people on edge. Speaking of which, the reaction on the ground is intense. Let's check it out. As news of Suida's violence spread, Druze communities in Israel and the Golan Heights hit the streets. Hundreds, including Israeli citizens, breached a border fence into an Israel-controlled buffer zone in Syria, trying to get to Suida to help their people. This is next-level passion. Let's see it.
Hundreds of these Druze individuals crossing the Israeli border fence into the Israeli-controlled buffer zone inside of Syria, trying to make their way to presumably that city of Suida. It has been an extraordinary scene to witness these hundreds of people who have broken across this guarded border fence. We have seen the Israeli military out deploying tear gas to try and and get these individuals, many of whom are Israeli citizens, back onto the other side of the border. The Israeli Prime Minister has addressed the matter directly, saying that the situation in Suida, that southern city with a very heavy Druze population, calling that situation very serious, but saying that he has one request for the Druze population in Israel, and that is, quote, do not cross the border.
Wow, those scenes are powerful. You can feel the urgency, people risking it all for their community. Israel's prime minister told them to chill, saying the military's handling it, but clearly the Druze feel they can't just sit back. This is personal for a lot of people, but what's it mean for Syria's government? Syria's new leadership, running things since Assad's fall in December 2024, is in a bind. They say they're in Suida to restore order, but Israel's strikes are a slap in the face, challenging their authority. An Instagram post from Thusaminians notes Israel's warning: pull back from the south or face more attacks. Here's an expert from Damascus on what Israel's up to.
Well, this is also another escalation within a series of escalations that took place before. But it seems like Israel has been adamant to put its dominance over internal politics in Syria, and especially the southern front. Not only security, but it attempts to continue to cause havoc and chaos as it pertains to domestic politics in Syria. So it refuses the right of the central government to control all pockets, all areas, geographies, and it continues to want to impose its own rule. And there are rumors, obviously, now of a land incursion, an additional land incursion, more conditions placed on Damascus, when its only aim was to actually separate between the Bedouins that have attacked people of Suida and to protect civilians. That has been at least the announced declaration by the Ministry of Interior and the Ministry of Defense.
That's a bold take. Ammar Kaf's saying Israel's trying to call the shots in Syria, maybe even stirring up chaos. Syria's stuck. If they push into Suida, they get hit. If they pull back, they look weak. It's a no-win situation, and honestly, it's tough to see how this de-escalates. Let's pull back. This isn't just about Syria. Israel's been dropping bombs across the region: Yemen, Iran, Lebanon, Palestine, you name it. An ex-post from African soil puts it bluntly. Israel's hitting everywhere. There were even back-channel talks between Israel and Syria, but these strikes might have killed those. Here's what Israel's saying about their game plan.
The Israeli military chief of staff has reported to instruct the Air Force to move more fighter jets, more drones to the Syrian front, and to allocate more manpower from the military to that front, even if it's at the cost of other fronts on which Israel is waging war. That means that Israel now considers this an immediate priority. We've been hearing from the Israeli Prime Minister, who addressed Druze Israelis, who his constituents who serve in the Israeli army. That's, of course, not all of the Druze community, but certainly a sizable portion of it. He asked them not to get involved, not to breach the borders, and that Israel, its army, and its Air Force have this covered. They will fulfill their promise of protecting the Druze of Syria, as he claimed. The Israeli Minister of Defense has also said the time for messages is over, and now it's time for those painful attacks against Damascus. Israel will enforce demilitarization in southern Syria. So you have Israel saying very plainly that it will be an active player in internal Syrian politics, but also that it will enforce its objectives with firepower, not just in Suida, but also in Damascus.
Israel's going all in, beefing up their forces on the Syrian border. They say it's about the Druze and security, but Syria's calling it a violation of their sovereignty. This could spiral fast, and the whole region's watching. Look, this story's intense. The Druze are fighting for their lives in Suida, and their people across the border are ready to risk everything. Syria's trying to hold a broken country together, but Israel's strikes are making it harder. Those explosions in Damascus, they're not just buildings, they're shaking up lives. Both sides have their reasons, but the civilians caught in this mess are who I'm thinking about. Subscribe.